Hello, my name is Kaylin Malcolm, and this is my final for ethnic studies. Throughout the course, I have learned a lot about ethnicity and race, and I will say that if I would not have taken this course, I probably would not have learned a lot of the things that I learned. I kind of expected to learn a lot of things that I was going to learn in a history class or that I've already learned in a history class, and I definitely learned a lot more. So I have some notes up on my computer, but the first thing that I wanted to start off with was a quote that I used in my midterm, but it really stuck out to me, and I kind of wanted to elaborate a little bit more on it. Um, so the name of the article was Racial Discrimination in Contemporary America. And the quote that stuck out to me was, while many gaps have improved over time, significant racial disparities exist in various aspects of American life, as such as neighborhood qualities, which affects the childhood environment, employment in adulthood, and wealth acclamation. Sorry. So this really stuck out to me, and I think that this quote gives a huge, broad understanding of what this course is really about, and understanding different ethnicities and different races, and what life was like back in like the 1800s, but also understanding what life is like now. Focusing a little bit on what life was back when America was founded was I really wanted to talk about religion just a little bit because being someone who has grown up in a church of some kind, whether I went to Catholic school for a few years, but I now continue to go to church. Something that I think is really important in America is being able to express your religious beliefs. I think that when America was first founded, based on the article of religion and the founding of the American Republic, a lot of the religion that was used back then was Catholic, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, when people would express their own beliefs outside of the Catholic religion, it wasn't accepted that much. And it was almost shamed against whether you believed in something completely different or you had a slightly different value or belief. They essentially shunned you for that. And that was kind of where equality started to become very different when it came to just white people. I think a lot of times people thought, oh, like, because they're white and they're white, they're always going to get along. But when it came to religion or political views, there was a lot of diversity in that area. So another thing that really stuck out to me in this course was when we did, I believe it was reading response 3 or 4, I think 4. But basically there was an article about the Stop of Asian Hate movement is at the crossroads. So I think that this course really opened my eyes about learning a lot about other cultures and diving a little bit deeper into what it is like for those other people. Now, I mentioned this in my midterm, but growing up in a predominantly white community, whether that's my neighborhood, whether that's the school I went to, Sonoma County, obviously the majority of people that live here are white, and other races would be considered the minority, just statistically speaking. So when I read the article of the Stopping Asian Hate movement is at its crossroads, I really enjoyed writing this reading response. And that was because I learned a lot more about Asian Pacific heritage, and their culture and how much hate they've gone through, not just in the last few years, but over the course of many years. I would not have known that if I wouldn't have dug a little bit deeper when writing that reading response. But also on top of that, I don't think I would have learned as much about that if I didn't take this course in general. So I think it's super important for students to really embrace the whole course as they are taking it, because I think that obviously when you take a class, you get what you put into it. And since I was genuinely invested in learning more about these things, I would do my own research and put in a lot of effort into my reading responses. And I hope that that ends up reflecting. But at the end of the day, since I was genuinely invested in getting to know more about the Asian Pacific heritage and their culture or their race and ethnicity, I decided that, I was going to dive a little bit deeper into that. And that was another thing that really stuck out to me and how my perspective has grown throughout this course. Another moment that I think is really stuck out to me is there was a recent article titled 10 Examples of Environmental Racism and How It Works. Now, if you would have asked me before this course what was environmental racism, I probably would not have given you the correct answer. I probably would have said that it had to do something with minorities living in specific communities, which is somewhat true. However, when focusing on what this article actually talks about, the three main points that I got out of it was, first of all, the sitting of pollution in the facilities of minority communities. Now, this is where minorities live and the pollution that is going on around them in their communities, whether that's their neighborhoods, whether that's their businesses, maybe even inside of their houses, different things along those lines. The pollution that goes on in those areas. Another point that I found from this article was the lack of access to clean water and sanitation. This is very common in minority communities. And typically in these minority communities, it is people of a different race that are not white. This can include African Americans, Latinos, Latinx, even Asian and Pacific Americans. But obviously, like in Sonoma County, based on other studies that I've done, the minority would be anybody who is not white in Sonoma County. But on this article, it is basically just talking about anybody of a different color or a different race that is not white. And then another point that I saw that really stuck out to me was the increased exposure of environmental toxins. Now, being someone who's an elementary education major, I think that children living in a specific environment is super, super important, and focusing on a child's health and their education is a top priority in my book. And I think that a lot of children are growing up in these households and growing up in these minority communities where it is not safe, it is not clean, and it is not safe for them. And basically the only time there's safety or clean water or maybe even clean clothes or good food is when they attend school. And I think that as someone who's an education major, I strive as a teacher when I get older that all of my students will feel safe in my classroom and like they can come to me whether they're having problems at home. I want to be able to help out all my students when I eventually become a teacher, and let them know that no matter what their home situation is that they can succeed in our classroom environment and then hopefully take what they learn from the classroom and apply it at home. And that's similar to this class, is that I hope that students that have taken this class are able to take the knowledge that they have learned and apply it to their everyday lives. And whether that's sharing it with their family members, whether it's sharing it with their friends, or maybe it's just keeping more things in mind than they would have. I definitely know I will be. I've already shared some of this information that I've read over this course with my family and friends, and it's definitely been eye-opening. But, another thing that I wanted to focus on is why aren't Black employees getting more white-collar jobs? Now, this is an article that I read, and I was super intrigued by this because I feel like not a lot of people really think about this. I think everyone thinks of a white-collar job as a white male working this job, sometimes occasionally a white woman. And I think that this article was really eye-opening, focusing on hidden biases, networking and referrals, and educational disparity. And focusing on the last point mainly, educational disparity, I did a little bit of research into our very own Sonoma State and what the racial demographics are at our Sonoma State College. I know that all different colleges have all different races and their statistics may be a little bit different, but considering talking about Sonoma County, I wanted to focus on the racial demographics. So with 41.2%, it is Latinx and Hispanics, 4.9% Asian, 2.7% Black or African Americans, 0.4% American Indian, 5.5% with two or more races, 4.2 with race or ethnicity unknown, 2.9 non-resident alien, and zero point 0.4 with Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander. Now, after reading this, I was actually quite shocked of how high the percentages were, especially for Latinx and Hispanic. I was expecting it to be a little bit lower than it was, but honestly, that's amazing for Sonoma State, and I'm so glad that these students are able to attend a college. I think over the years, and there was another statistic that I found actually, was that racial diversities in colleges from 2019 to 2023. White students made up at nearly 46% of the student population in 2019, but this figure dropped to 41% as of 2023. Hispanic and Latino or Latina students were only racial ethnic groups that increased in undergraduate enrollment from 2019 to 2023 by just over 1%. Now, I have plenty of friends that are a part of the Latino or Latina communities, and a lot of them are attending school. And this is a monumental moment for a lot of them. Some of them are first generation college students. Some of them, some of their parents had just moved over to America right before they were born. So this is a huge deal for them. And I just want to highlight the fact that I think it's amazing that colleges in Sonoma County, whether that's the JC or Sonoma State, have been able to allow those students into their colleges and into their communities. I know that some colleges are not as accepting, and that is really sad, going back to the article that I was just talking about, why aren't Black employees getting more white collar jobs? And this is because there are some colleges that still have that hidden bias that a lot of people had maybe 10, 15 years ago. However, I think America is changing for the better overall. But to basically wrap up this entire course, I'd just like to say thank you, Dr. Bell, and for this opportunity that I get to share. I really have enjoyed this class a little bit more than I thought I was going to. Getting to learn more about different races and different ethnicities, how it affects the community that I live in, the schools that I go to, the people that I hang out around, different things like that. I really have enjoyed getting to learn a little bit more about that. So thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy this.